I wanted to bring light to a big part of the Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fight that I think has been overlooked. And the reason I bring it up is we see a lot in the recent past athletes that have been rewarded for winning and then being outwardly arrogant after they've won and rewarded in sponsorship, so on and so forth. And then on the flip side, we have a world that wants to see humility, pride, but humility in the youth. And so there's this mismatch that's going on. To take things even further, Tim Kofeld, an amazing Canadian that does a lot of debunking in research and making sure that research is reliable. And what he says is that we've seen a big shift in who youth are aspiring to be. So it used to be, let's say, for the sake of this message I'm talking about, normal jobs, right? So we've seen youth used to aspire to have normal jobs, and now they're aspiring to be famous, whether it's a musician, an athlete, an actor, etc. So where do we think the youth are looking then, right? Towards these individuals? Well, what are they doing? How are they behaving? How should I be? Again, going back to what are we rewarding, right? So Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. I don't know much about the UFC. I don't know much about the two individuals. I'm looking at the snapshot of leading up to the fight and then the fight itself. So before the fight, Conor McGregor's apparently talking smack, saying some pretty negative things towards Dustin Poirier, things that apparently are over the line. And you can look up online what those were. Fascinating, because that's the individual that has the money, the attention, the status, etc. Now comes the idea, hurt people, right? Hurt people, which is like, wait a second. If you have everything and you feel full and you feel satiated, you feel successful, right? Do you really have the care to put down others and say such negative things to other people? If you truly are, right, just life is good, you got all that you need, right? Would you do that? There's one interesting point. So fight happens and Dustin Poirier wins. And you've got Conor, who unfortunately was still sitting because he was injured, and Joe Rogan comes up and puts a mic in Dustin Poirier's face right after the fight. Like right after, adrenaline's still going, emotions are still high. And Dustin Poirier takes the attention off of him, talks about the individual that he invited to the fight that is going through cancer, and said that actually that individual's tougher than he is. And then he goes on to say that with the winnings, he's going to partner up with other fighters, go back home and improve lives of other people. Right? So he accomplished something huge and then takes the attention off himself. In the post game, right? So that was while the emotions were high in the octagon. Then post game, he does the exact same thing, takes the attention off himself, goes into talking about that. Here, what was his quote? He says, "The hands that I beat these guys down with, I want to lift my city up, lift people in need up." And he also says that he wished all the flashing lights and added mumbo jumbo that goes on in fighting wasn't a part of it. He wishes he could just show up and do the job. Show up, do the job, and get out of there and take what he's earned to improve the world. Right? I didn't see much celebrating of this character, this approach. I didn't see the ideas of controlling your emotions being celebrated. Right? I know it's not sexy, right? But these are the traits that lead to these super courageous, fulfilling lives. And it seems like the lives that we want our youth to look up to and aspire to be like. So I wanted to end with a quote from the Dalai Lama that says, "The true hero is one who conquers his own anger and hatred." And the reason I want to end on that is, while this is what I thought was the most fascinating from the entire interaction between Conor and Dustin, and again, I'm looking at these two as characters. It plays a narrative of hero and villain, right? In the narrative, not them specifically. And what we see when Conor's on the ground, still, I know he's injured, but yelling at Dustin, negative slurs, etc. And when you talk about one who conquers their anger and hatred, it's someone that feels full. It's someone that if your life is somewhat oriented correctly, you probably aren't aspiring to talk down to others, to be rude, to break others down. And so while Conor's down on the ground yelling these rude things at him, he turns to Joe and says, "You know what? I know he's still yelling at me, but I hope he gets home to his beautiful family." So he doesn't say something negative. he doesn't just say nothing. He actually shows the individual love and says, I hope you get home to your beautiful family. I thought that's someone that has his stuff together. That's someone that I believe is oriented correctly. And I think the most powerful message of it all is you have two different people valuing two different things, allowing those values to orient their life. You've got one individual before, during, and after that seems to be quite angry, but is valuing the status, money, attention. And then on the flip side, before, during, after, a humble approach, valuing the opportunity to improve the world. I thought that needs to be celebrated because I think that was missed and not focused on enough. That's all I've got. Again, I don't know much about the fighting side of things, but I thought that was a damn powerful message that made me a Dustin Poirier fan for sure.